I sure you're going to laugh. I mean, go ahead. I've had the experience of a police woman from Carnegie Mellon University tell me that when it came to law enforcement, the Carnegie Mellon University Police Department was not a special security service designed to protect um, the student body, the paid student body, and make sure that they were protected when they committed a crime. I mean, obviously that's a laugh, but the idea that the police are not corrupt to the point where they'll avert their eyes from a crime committed by a powerful person against a powerless person, or make a decision based on race or preference in the pecking order, or accept a bribe under the table. In other words, allow a rich person to get away with murder, um, or let pedophiles walk free because they're prominent. The theory of law enforcement is just objective, looking at the evidence and so forth. I mean, I think we all can agree that that's a laugh, that it's ridiculous. You don't find a cop who's honest, maybe once in a million years, sort of like a lottery ticket. But I'll go ahead and, draw up an analysis of the implied hocus pocus that Hillary Clinton and fans of Ruth Ginsburg, Celine Dion come up with and lying about Leslie Katz's partnership with Gail Burstyn and the Licky Chop squirm of Seattle and Pittsburgh. In other words, I'll uh, approach this as though it's not hardened, ruthless denial that Mignon Wen and her apparatus were in place to release aids and make money by tricking the victims, selling genocide pornography. Because, I mean, that's ugly, right? That's an ugly theory. And it comes from the Jewish Holocaust survivor community. Instead, what I'll assume is that no matter how ugly the theory might be, if that was done, Seattle police will immediately admit there was a crime committed. Even if it leads to the death of Michael Reagan, they would admit that there was a crime committed. Okay, obviously that's a laugh, but we'll go ahead and proceed as though it's not a laugh. Okay, Pittsburgh Post Gazette reported that there was a facility off Grafton Street, Bryant Street, I guess it was, in Highland Park, where the uh, acting um, protective nurses for the mentally retarded were found out um, giving electric shocks to the retarded children for no reason, just for kicks. Well, it turns out that one day walking down Bryant, I knew that there was such a facility there because someone I know, his name is Josh Angras from the Israeli police force, a friend of Scott Ryback's, was walking along with one of the retarded children. Um, this was about a half block away from Jennifer Rubin's house, who I have reported finding a look-alike on the cover of a Neva pornography, um, pink cinema tape, um, of the Neva Corporation, who, yet across the street from her house, kidnapped and gassed me in a place called King's Estate and produced the Burston letters. So Amanda Harcourt, the weasel attorney for Celine Dion, predicates her claim that I wasn't tortured on, get this. I'll tell you the story that she uses as her bulwark for her tawdry and evil justification for things like raping Def Cheney, murdering Circe Kennedy. Her claim that I was not tortured. Okay. Um, Despite the neuroplasm, the proximity to a facility that the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, the entire city knew was torturing people. The same gang was torturing people there, and everybody knew it. She says I wasn't because, see, there was a kid named Tommy Albert, I think was his name. And he called me one day and said, "You want to come out? I'm waiting for you, you know." So I come down to the corner to hang out with Tom Albert, you know, and to my absolute horror, the Pittmans were waiting for me. When I asked him, "Why did you do this?" he said they threatened to kill me if I didn't. Well, Amanda Harcourt's claim that I wasn't kidnapped and tortured and brutally gassed by men who had terrorized, kidnapped, battered, slaughteringly molested, subject me to evil, demented death threats, was predicated on the uncontested claim that someone they had threatened to kill had lured me out, full knowing I would never have come anywhere near a place where I knew those people were, because they threatened to kill him. And this is what the Pittsburgh Post Gazette and the University of Pittsburgh and Seattle, Washington uses their justification for poisoning me in the mouth and defending John Schulman for years, refusing to teach me sign language and banning me from college. For real. This is the truth of it. Schulman's partner was from Ellis School, where Leslie Katz came from. He was in Jabberwocky with Leslie Katz. They were all Jewish people. So, exactly how does Wilzel Brown and the gang behind the Kelly School incident, which included Schulman and O'Connor and Mignot Went, the Wenzel gang. Wenzel was the name of a street where there was a brothel. Where does this human contact division end up while praising Joseph Goebbels' masquerade as Carnegie Mellon University's secret service to defend Leslie Katz's virginity because Robert Fripp says her virginity proves rape? Well, there's sort of an explanation for that. I mean, it's not the one Celine Dion gives by any means. Celine Dion's explanation is that Wilzel was a sacred trooper of the Ouspensky Gurdjieff team who was a sacred reflexologist who could read the devil. And a letter defending Leslie Katz's right to leave him, but wishing she wouldn't. And that's her explanation. There's another explanation. Wilzel Brown was, well, go back to Bryant Street and my confusion about Bryan and Grafton. Grafton led up to the house of Beth Blumenfeld and Michael Todd of Sony, who works with Celine Dion now. He's vice president of Sony, her publishing company. And behind them was Ian Watmaker. He's the one who played Ian McDonald for me, the Ian division. Watmaker was like Attenborough, Watmaker, I mean. He was in a gang. He played King Crimson for me. He's the neurosurgeon who Licky Chubbs, yeah, who was Hop Kendrickson with. They he was in a gang called the Gutter Snipes, who used to meet in Hidden Valley at the house of Michael McGarvey, who lived up just about a block away from Watmaker. Paul Runco, about whose mother was from Ellis School, and Greg Carl, their mastermind, who wrote a companion book in support of King Crimson and that woman, Gail Burston. They were in a gang called the Gutter Snipes. Watmaker was named in the letters of Gail Burston. His father was, Bernard, was a psychiatrist for Attica State Prison. Well, Michael McGarvey went to the Tyler School for the Arts. He was an upperclassman with Wilzel Brown. So Leslie Katz had been introduced to me by Daphne Salman and not Daphne Salman, Ellen Berkowitz, Ellen David Berkowitz. Ellen Berkowitz introduced me to Leslie Katz at the Pennsylvania Governor's School for the Arts. And Dia Dowis was there. Dia was also at school at the Tyler School for the Arts with Michael McGarvey and Will Zell. So Dia knew Leslie Katz. So McGarvey and Zell knew about Leslie Katz from either me or from Dia, or from some organized network. They came up back and forth from Highland Park to Squirrel Hill. Leslie Katz knew Martin Edelman of Wells Fargo and Tom Gordon's best friend, who across the street from whom lived Andrea Swimmer with Olvar Gonzalez, another one of his best friends. And they knew Cyril Wecht. So Cyril Wecht's name was at a spectrochemical laboratory in Homewood. Serby administered the spectrochemical. He knew Ian Watmaker. So, and Peckham came over one time and connected with David Cohen, a neighbor of Ian Watmaker. My explanation for the letters was the one my mother gave me. Some Jewish girl had a crush on me. I didn't really think anything more than that. They were soapy, dumb letters mostly. Few were a little highfalutin, but I figured she was one of these Jewish brainies. So, her neighbor was a cousin of Beth Blumenfeld, who introduced me to Gail Burston. Sharon Samuels, her mother, was a judge on the bench in Allegheny County. She lived next door to me when my father died, and the gang from CMU gave his cashmere coat to their dog to tear up. So Zell, he sent me a letter that I gave to the Wilkinsburg Police Department. It was so suspicious. He was talking about a lyric called Leslie that he would focus all of his world around, like a mystical quest to comprehend its lyrics. It was like he was describing a King Crimson album. It was a real suspicious letter. I gave it to the Wilkinsburg Police Department across from Flynn Construction, where the van was from that Shulman and O'Connor and Wen used to kidnap me at Kelly Elementary School. Into their storyline. They raced recklessly around a school bus and said I was the driver, set it up to make it look like I was the driver when I was just a passenger. I was infuriated by the situation. I ended up nearly dissociating and homeless from the ordeal and trauma of this terrible crime network. So Zell had that contact with the mania of the gutter snipes, and he was an upperclassman with McGarvey, who was in the gutter snipes with Ronco, whose mother was at Ellis School. And but Tyler School for the Arts in Philadelphia, not Pittsburgh. I mean, this is all Pennsylvania, but they're 300 miles apart. So it's Pennsylvania higher educational system, and the Ivy League college network in Pennsylvania. Harris Wofford was vice president of Bryn Mawr, I guess, where Gail Burston went to school. And he's the dude who replaced John Hines. So, Celine Dion was pretty slippery getting Harris Wofford to make a move like that. Because they were conniving to promote Leslie Katz no matter what. And it's like the Gail and Leslie alliance, Gail and Leslie alliance. And this is, I guess with Ginsburg and Hillary Clinton were hired by Trumpy Tune Incorporated to promote. Now, Celine Dion's Hocus Pocus Ouspensky division were the people of Putin acclaim, like Oliver Stone was working with Cyril Wecht. So there was the keeping quiet what Josh Agras was doing, and what Boomer, or Tommy Albert, whose nickname was Boomer, was doing in that little nook of creation known as Bryant Street, where King's estate was, where I was gassed, kidnapped and gassed as a child. It's a large money investment by Jewish Hollywood. And I think it's important to understand that all of Pittsburgh knew Shulman was ripping off the Carnegie. They were pocketing the dough. They wanted his support for Penis Gabriel in the slander operation, the justified pornographic genocide plan that they threw at me. I reported it to the post office and got chased out of town as starting rumors about it. Then it was the post office itself that lashed out at the Kennedys for trying to help me. And it's important to understand that all of Pittsburgh knew that facility on Bryant Street was torturing people. It's important to understand that Weasel Harcourt's terribly defamatory misrepresentation of what happened, which was used to victimize me, to weaponize the victims for the attackers, which was used to victimize the Kennedys, rape innocent people, rip and murder Shannon Harps, was all predicated on the admission that I was lured into the proximity of the man who did it to me by someone because he was threatened. His life was threatened if he didn't cooperate, if he didn't make a fake phone call to me and lure me out. They all knew, every single person in Pittsburgh, it was in the Post Gazette, knew that this facility over by King's Estate was torturing retarded people. They all knew that this gang who was playing monkey games, like um, framing me for armed robbery when I got home from the governor's school and implying that they had stolen a nuclear bomb for Israel. We're torturing retarded children at this facility. Everybody in Pittsburgh knew. It was in the newspaper. And yet, Celine Dion and this weasel hardcore have still, to this day, are making up purely spiteful trade union laws to get away with Licky Chop's genocide pornography. And you try telling that to the women policemen at CMU, and they're going to say, oh, we don't just do favors for people like that. Right. We don't just do favors for people like that. They'll say at the Seattle Police Department, if Michael Reagan did that, we're going to tell him it's a no-no. We're going to kick his butt. They'll say, right. We all believe you, Officer